Now, don't reach for your remote, but we've got one of the dullest men in Britain in the studio. Hugh Barker from Barnet travels the country photographing hedges. I'm not being rude by calling him boring. He's one of 12 men featured in the Dull Men's Club calendar for 2015. Hugh,
hi.
Thank you so much for coming in. I have to ask, what is the Dull Men's Club?
It's actually about 30 years old. There's a guy called Leland Carlton who started it in New York in the 80s, and now he lives over here, and he's decided to up the level of it a bit, and so he's produced this calendar this year, and he might be doing a book next year also. So it's just a fun thing that it's celebrating the ordinary. It's, you know, people with interests like roundabouts and collecting milk bottles and traffic cones and all sorts of strange things that...
Now, what month are you, and how did you get into the calendar?
I'm Mr. December.
Okay.
He got in touch with me and asked me if I would like to, because I have a book about hedges and he thought that was quite funny. So he got in touch with me and asked me if I'd like to be in it.
What is it about hedges you love so much?
Well, hedges are really important in the countryside, in the British history, for the environment. There's all sorts of actually very interesting things about them. And also it's interesting to see the way people cut their hedges in the towns, topiaries and all these sorts of things.
We've seen some great ones there. That was just one of a car. And look at this, a cat.
Slightly clumsy cat, that one. That's at a stately home somewhere.
Yeah, have you got a particular favourite out of all the hedges you've photographed?
There's a beautiful hedge at Rockingham Castle called the Elephant Hedge, which is 450 years old, and it's a massive yew hedge, which it doesn't really look like elephants, it's more like kind of clouds or blobs or something. But it's probably the nicest hedge in the country.
You've made it into this Dull Men's Club calendar. Are you at all offended by the notion that you might be considered a little bit boring?
I'm proud to be dull. I think it's a great thing to be. And, you know, lots of people have strange interests and, you know, a lot of them are men, but not all. But, yeah, no, I think it's a great thing. I think it's something to celebrate, not to be ashamed of. Yeah,
and well, what do you make of the other months, for example?
Well, we're having a book launch next week, so I'm going to be really interested to meet some of them.
We have a few questions to ask you. We wanted to make a comparison, for example. Now, when it comes to dullness, do you think that you are more or less dull than Mr. March? Now, this is Archie Workman, who is the drain spotter.
Well,
Not train, drain spotter.
Drain spotting. I can see what's interesting about drains, because there's all sorts of different kind of cast iron ones. But I like to think that I'm hopefully the dullest man in the calendar.
OK, well,
not that it's a competition.
But hang on, you say that, but then there's Mr. July, David Morgan. He collects traffic cones. Are you more or less dull than him?
Well, I've actually had a conversation about the traffic cones, and you'd be surprised how much interest there is in the different types of traffic cones you get in different places, in different countries, different ways they're manufactured. So I can see what's interesting about that.
Listen, Hugh, I have to say it's been incredibly interesting talking to you.
Lovely.
So there you go. Thank you for coming in.
No trouble.